Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Amy and I am a special education teacher, a voracious reader, and a huge fan of Shakespeare. And today I'm trying something a little bit differently. I am not sure if I'm going to make videos like this in the future, but I decided to just try something new. The new year is a perfect time to just get a little bit experimental. So what I did was I created this presentation that I'm going to show you that just has our monthly Shakespeare play. And in fact, some of the months will probably have more than one play. There's 15 plays total that I'm planning on reading for 2025, and I hope that you will join me. The majority of them are actually comedies. I think only 5 of them on the list are tragedies, and the majority of them I have not read before. So I think there's about 7 that I have read before, and then the other ones are new to me. And I just thought, 2025 seems like a great year to just delve back into Shakespeare. It's not like I haven't read Shakespeare. I've been an English teacher and a special education teacher, but the main plays that we have read based on the grade levels I've taught have been Romeo and Juliet, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Julius Caesar, and I think that's it. So those are the 3 that I've been on repeat with for the past 20 years, although a couple of those that I just mentioned are actually on this list because I do enjoy them and I want to reread them. In January, we're starting things off with Hamlet, and as of the time of this recording, I'm already done with Act 1, and it's just amazing like how much has stayed with me about this play and what I enjoyed about it, and I can't wait to talk about this play with you either at the end of this month or at the start of February. I'm definitely going to make a deep dive video on this because I've really been enjoying it. I was actually a little bit worried when I thought about doing this challenge and then talking to you all about the plays after I've read them. I don't know why I thought this, but I guess I was just worried that because I am reading some of these without a teacher or some I haven't read in 20 years, that somehow I'm not going to be able to like read Shakespeare on my own. And I don't know why I had this fear because it's basically like riding a bike. I feel like anyone that started out reading Shakespeare, the first couple of plays, if you're in like 7th or 8th grade, like I was, it's a little bit shaky. But then by the time you're a junior and a senior, you're like, oh, like I totally get Shakespeare at this point. You've got that, thee and thy and thine are all you and your and yours and all that. And the way he inverts language, it just becomes like second nature. So I'm just reading Hamlet and I'm like, oh, I'm able to understand everything that's going on in this play and everything that's being said. So if there is something that I'm not understanding, it's more about like the cultural references, and I'm just kind of writing questions about those. But in terms of understanding, comprehending the text itself, it hasn't been a problem. But great that I had read Hamlet before. And I mean, even if you've never read Hamlet, I think you should give this one a shot. It's one of the greatest plays Shakespeare ever wrote. It's a tragedy. And if you've watched The Lion King, you pretty much know Hamlet, except Lion King had a happy ending. And because this is a tragedy, we all know that Hamlet does not. But I'm really enjoying this one. So this has been a great pick to start off for January. So if you are interested in this, don't be intimidated. Hamlet is a really great play. And yeah, so that's January. And then in February, I have picked up Much Ado About Nothing, and I have never read this play before. I know nothing about it. It sounds interesting though. It's one of his comedies, and I couldn't tell you anything more about it than that. It seems like when I sort of skimmed at the beginning that it's starting out with possibly a marriage. I'm not sure, but it seems like this book has a lot to do with betrayals or rumor spreading and things like that. But it's a comedy, so we know it'll have a happy ending. But it just sounds really interesting. So I can't wait to read Much Ado About Nothing. And then in March, the plan is to reread King Lear. And this was another one that I read in high school and really enjoyed. I wouldn't say I enjoyed King Lear as much as I enjoyed Hamlet, but I just remember thinking that this was such a weird play because I think it's because I think reading classics when you're in high school or middle school is difficult because you just don't have the life experience. Your brain hasn't fully developed yet, and you just see things as a kid or a young adult would. And I just remember thinking like I didn't really understand King Lear at all, the character, not the play. I just didn't understand why he set forth everything in motion the way he did, why he didn't understand his daughters the way I thought he should have. And I didn't even really understand, I think it was Cordelia. Was it Cordelia or Cornelia? It's been a while since I looked at that, so I'm not really sure. Yeah, Cordelia. I couldn't really figure out, it's been a long time, so I remember what she did, but I'm trying to figure out like why exactly like she wanted to go about things the way she did, or why she also didn't understand her father the way I thought she should have. Because really, at the end of the day, this is a tragedy about family relationship, family love. You know, what does it mean to actually show that you love someone? It's about inheritance and all that. So I'm really looking forward to this one to see how I view this book with, you know, my 40 plus years of experience on this planet, how that's going to influence and shape my reading of King Lear. So this is a good one. Definitely recommend it. Hope you'll join me in March for King Lear. And then in April, I am tackling Love's Labor's Lost, another one that I don't know anything about. I just know, once again, it's another early comedy. The only thing I do know about this, because I did look up a basic plot, is that it starts off with three men who have all sworn off dating because they want to be super serious about their studies. I think, yeah, they make this pledge for like 3 years. So 3 years are going to have nothing to do with women, and they're just going to take their studies and careers very seriously and buckle down. And because it's a comedy, we know that this will probably end with weddings instead. So I think they're going to have some trouble sticking to that pledge. And it just sounds funny, so I'm willing to check this one out. In May, I am reading As You Like It, which is another comedy. This one had mixed reviews. It doesn't seem like this one is as popular, and it's a pastoral comedy. So I'm assuming that means it's taking place in the countryside. So I don't know how that changes things up. I mean, most of his plays seem to take place like in a royal court situation or with noble families. So I'm not sure what the family situation is like if it's pastoral. But this is the one, oh, it's got the quote, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. So that's a pretty famous line. So we'll have to see what I think about this one. But I think May would be a good time of year to read a pastoral comedy in the spring. And then in June, this is when I'm reading two plays back to back. We've got Romeo and Juliet and Midsummer Night's Dream. And they go really nicely together because I believe, but don't quote me on this, Romeo and Juliet definitely came first, but I think he produced Midsummer Night's Dream. If not, and I am just sort of convinced that that is the order that it goes in, because Romeo and Juliet starts off with a prologue, and in fact, it has two prologues. And in A Midsummer Night's Dream, we're dealing with like a play within a play, which is really fun. And there are some moments where they make fun of having prologues. And I've often wondered if Shakespeare got a lot of negative reviews, or the critics were coming at him about having a prologue at the beginning of Romeo and Juliet, which I could understand why people might not have appreciated that. And we can talk more about that when we get to that month, because I have so much to say on that. It just made me wonder if when he was making Midsummer Night's Dream, which is also dealing with the play within the play, is another romantic tragedy similar to Romeo and Juliet. Is he just making fun of himself? Is he just having a little go at what the critics were saying and not taking himself too seriously in this one? And I just think they go really nicely together. So I can't wait to read those again. I've read them so many times now, but I still enjoy both of them. And I can't wait to share my insights with all of you about these two plays. And I hope that you will share your thoughts in return. In July, this is when I'm tackling All's Well That Ends Well. And this is a problem play. So a problem play, and I think there's 4 of them, and critics kind of go back and forth on if a play by Shakespeare is a comedy or a problem play. But a problem play is defined as a complex ethical dilemma. All I know about this one is from the references to this play in All's Well by Mona Awad, which I loved. And I'm rereading that book in July. So this is the perfect companion to that. So then I can kind of see how those references played out about in that text. But it seems like there is a character in here who is in love with this man, and he treats her really badly. That's all I really know about it. And it seems like the majority of the play, she's like doing all of these things to win his love. But from reading All's Well, I think there was a lot of commentary on that. So I don't want to say more than that because I don't want to give spoilers away or anything like that. And I might be completely wrong about this. So I'm really interested to see what this play is all about. This was another one that has like a lot of mixed reviews, if people liked it or didn't like it. And it sounds kind of weird, so I definitely want to check this one out. Mostly so it will deepen my understanding of All's Well, which is such a good book. So if you haven't read that, definitely read that. Then in August, I decided we'd go to The Tempest, which I remember reading in 7th grade and thinking it was really, really weird, not fully understanding all of it because it was my first Shakespearean play, but just thinking, oh, this is kind of weird because we've got this like magician Prospero and his daughter Miranda, and they get shipwrecked, and there's like an airy sprite named Ariel, and then they come across this monster named Caliban. It's just a very weird experimental play. This is one of his last plays, and I just want to see how much more I can get out of this now as an adult because I didn't really get very much out of it as a kid at all. Like, I know the characters, but I really couldn't tell you what the plot was about or what the point of it was or what any of the themes were. 7th grade was a rough year for me. 8th grade was too. So I think I'll have better luck with it this time around. And I thought it'd be fun to read this in August because August is typically the time of season when it's like hurricane season. So I just thought it made sense to pair this play with this month. September, once again, I don't know why, but I've decided I'm going to go with 2 plays, even though September is my busiest month because it's back to school time as a teacher. But the reason why I'm going to read these 2 is because I'm actually not sure what grade level I will be teaching next year. I don't know if I'm staying in 9th grade, if I'm getting moved around. You never know. So I just want to be open to the fact that if I get moved somewhere else, I might potentially be reading Othello, or I might be reading Taming of the Shrew. And I've already read both of these before in high school. So most people are familiar with Othello, another tragedy that's dealing with manipulation, a breakdown of a marriage, a person's descent into madness because of their jealousy. It's pretty unhinged. It's a really crazy book. It deals with so many different things, but it's one that I definitely recommend people read. And then at least we're balancing out with a comedy because Taming of the Shrew, this one's pretty fun. And if you've watched 10 Things I Hate About You, then you're pretty much familiar with some of the plot. It's not a complete retelling, but it shares some similar themes in there and some similarities definitely with some of the characters. But in this one here, we have our main female character. I'm trying to remember, Katerina, I think is what her name is. And I don't know if they changed it. They might have even kept it the same in the movie, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check real quick. So we have Catherine, who goes by Kate, but her sister's name is Bianca, and it was Bianca in the movie as well. Bianca's the younger sister, and she would actually like to get married, but Catherine, she does not want to get married. This kind of creates a problem for Bianca. And we have these people who nobody really wants to date Catherine or marry her because she's not really a nice person. She comes across kind of mean because she doesn't want to get married to anybody in the first place. She just wants to be an independent woman. And yeah, it's about what happens with what's his name, Petruchio or something like that, comes into her life. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So haven't read this one since probably 10th grade, so might as well give it another go. October, I thought would be perfect to revisit Macbeth, which I also read in high school. I mean, it's got 3 witches in it, and I was just going to say, it's right on the back of this book, double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Yeah, this one here is pretty wild too. I really like how a lot of Shakespeare's plays have to do with superstitions or sort of fortune telling, soothsaying type of stuff. It's like a lot of predictions and this idea of fate versus free will that we see in a lot of the different plays. Romeo and Juliet comes to mind. Julius Caesar comes to mind. Even Hamlet to an extent. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a ghost in that one, the ghost of his father. So there's these ideas of, when these kind of weird things happen and people are making predictions, it kind of sets the course of the plots. And then you're wondering, like, was it just fated to happen? Was it just written in the stars? Or is it really just because the characters just made the decisions that they made? So that'll be fun to explore this year as well. And Macbeth is a good one. He's married to his wife and she sort of wants him to step up and do some crazy things because she's very ambitious. And I haven't read this one since high school. So it'd be really interesting to reread this and get a better idea of what was going on in that relationship. So I don't really remember too much more of it than that. So we'll see what I come across this time around. And then the last set of books I have not read before. No more rereads. So in November, I'm going to check out Measure for Measure, which, let's see in my notes here. This is another comedy / problem play that I know absolutely nothing about. All I have on the back to go by is a quote that says, "Some rise by sin and some by virtue fall." So I don't know if we have characters that are religious, are nuns. I'm not really sure. Let's see. We have a duke, a deputy, an ancient lord, a young gentleman, a fantastic. I'll have to look up what that is. 2 friars, a simple constable, foolish gentleman, an executioner, a dissolute prisoner, sister to Claudio, betrothed to Angelo, beloved of Claudio, and a nun. Okay. Yeah, it seems like we have probably some religious themes going on here. We probably have some legal things happening here. So this one sounds interesting to me. And lastly, in December, I thought, let's read 2 more because I couldn't decide between these 2. Because 12th Night seems like a perfect read for December because it takes place after Christmas. It's the 12 days leading up to Epiphany in January. I'm still probably going to end up reading this before the holiday season comes and then reading Winter's Tale after. It'll be interesting. I think this 12th Night, this is also a comedy, I believe. Yes. And it takes place after Christmas and it's like a ritual festival time. I don't know if it's similar to Carnival, but there's like masks involved and all kinds of interesting things. So I'm really looking forward to sort of deep diving about what the actual 12th night rituals and festivals were because I don't know very much about that. I was like, oh, well, takes place around the holiday season. So this will be perfect for that time of year. And then Winter's Tale, I don't know much about this one. It's also a comedy, although some people also think it could be labeled a problem play, but it's, takes place in wintertime. So I was like, January's pretty cold and the end of December. So it just seemed like a good time of year for that. And the quote on the back says, "That which my daughter came to look upon, the statue of her mother." So that's kind of interesting. It's got like a little baby on the back. Let's see what kind of characters we have in this play to give us some ideas. So we're dealing with a king, a prince, 4 lords, another king and another prince. We've got some queens, daughters, other lords. We've got a clown and an old shepherd. I'm wondering, it's a comedy, but I don't think this is going to be like Romeo and Juliet. But I don't know if these kingdoms are friends or if they are enemies. I'm not really sure. So couldn't tell you anything about Winter's Tale, but it's got winter in the title. So that's why I chose it for December. Those are all of the books, all of the plays rather, that I'm looking forward to reading throughout this year. And you shouldn't be intimidated to reread Shakespeare. You can definitely get through a play a month. If you even just read an act or 2 a week, you'll totally have it finished. It took me maybe an hour or 2 to get through Act 1 of Hamlet. And that's because I was actually like stopping to annotate and take notes because I want to be able to remember what I want to talk to you all about. So Let me know if you've read any of these plays, especially the ones that I haven't read before. Which Shakespearean play is your favorite? Would you like to read more Shakespeare? What was your experience with reading Shakespeare in high school? Because I bet you read at least one Shakespearean play growing up. And that's all I have for today. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye.